In 2016, California wife and mother Sherry Papini disappeared for 22 days. When she was found, she told authorities a detailed account of being kidnapped and tortured. Years later, in a stunning twist, Papini pled guilty to making false statements about what happened to her, setting off a media firestorm. Now, for the first time, Sherry Papini is telling her side of the story and revealing shocking new information. Sherry Papini, Caught in a Lie, an ID documentary event, Monday, May 26th at 9 on ID. Set your DVR. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 129 of the True Crime All the Time podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
I'm good, man. How about you?
I'm doing great. I had an excellent week. I got out, rode the motorcycle some.
Awesome.
There's just something about it, something about being on it that is like instant stress relief.
You like something vibrating between your legs. I got you.
All right. Instant stress relief.
That's all that matters, man.
2 minutes in. You hit me with that already.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do my double man, so, I had to do something.
All right. We'll take it. Anything new with you?
No, man. It's just happy to be here.
You're happy to be here.
I'm happy to be here, man.
All right. Listen, we got some new Patreon supporters, so let's give some shout outs.
Let's hear it.
We had Haley Mosley.
Hey, Haley Mosley.
Ashton.
Just Ashton?
Just Ashton.
Okay, Kucher.
Chris Tola.
Hey, Chris.
Kylie Kendall.
Oh, the Kardashians strike again.
We got them both.
Okay.
Taylor Prince.
Hey, Taylor.
Lindy Tristram.
Tristram. Hey, Tristram.
One or the other.
I think I'm right.
Jeffrey Jones.
Hey, JJ. Well, that's actually GJ.
Or GJ. Becky Pantuso. Sasha Saunders.
Hey, Sasha.
Candy Ramsey.
Hey, Candy.
Alex Trobich.
Hey, you got to do a game show.
Sound like Alex Trebek.
Yeah.
Kelsey Key.
Hey, KK.
Diane Hanson.
Thanks, Diane.
Patty Foster.
Patty, thank you.
Carrie Keys.
Carrie.
Ryan Doyle.
Thank you, Ryan.
Mia Khalifa.
Ooh, I like that. Khalifa.
That is cool. Chiquita Clark.
Ooh, why do I want to eat a banana?
Leanne Vanderraden.
Ooh, Vanderraven.
That's where you said Raven at the end.
I might have.
Sarah Jacqueline Andrews.
Hey, Sarah.
She jumped out at her highest level.
Yeah.
Becky Sawish.
Hey, Sawish.
Yep.
All right, Sawish.
And then the next name, she wants us to try it, each of us to try it separately. So you go first.
It's Florence Dupos.
Okay. I'm going to go Florence Dupuis, and we'll see who's right.
Okay.
We had Karen Travels.
Where's she going?
I don't know.
Okay.
And Jessica Graham.
Hey, Jessica.
So big shout out to all the new Patreon supporters. And then if we go back into the vault.
Okay.
This week, we selected Angela Reynolds.
Oh, Angela, thank you.
Been with us a long time Patreon supporter. We appreciate all the people that continue to support us. We had some great PayPal support as well.
All right.
Stephanie Villanueva. Lindsay Nickel.
Hey, thanks.
Sarah Gothier.
Gothier?
Or Gothier.
Like more goth than the person next to you?
It doesn't look like that at all.
Gothier.
Dorothy Ballerini.
Ooh, I wonder if she's related to the singer. Kelsey.
Was she on The Voice? Did she come from The Voice and then become a country singer? Maybe. I think I know who you're talking about, but I'm not sure. And then Francisca Reed.
Ooh, Francisca.
Actually made a sizable donation on PayPal.
It's a fun name.
We appreciate all that. All right, so right now we have an episode out on Unsolved.
We do.
It is on the Blackfriars Pub Massacre.
It is.
And this one's a little different for us. I mean, we're getting... we're in Boston for one thing.
I like those apples.
Hey, you like those apples. So Gibby may do some really, really bad Boston accents, although he does have family, right? Your mom's from Boston.
She is. Yeah.
She's a Southie.
Doesn't mean that I'll pull off a good accent.
No.
You know.
No, you might solve some really hard equations, though, while we're doing it.
I might.
But we're getting into the area a little bit. I mean, obviously, this is a massacre in the late 70s, but we're talking about some known crime figures that people are going to be familiar with. You know, the Whitey Bulgers and of the world and people like that. And maybe some other folks that people are familiar with. But definitely Whitey Bulger for sure. True crime folks are familiar with him. So make sure you check that out. So CrimeCon is coming up real quick, Gibbs. It's just about a month away.
Yeah, it's getting close.
So, last year we had a really good meetup. I thought it was a blast.
You and your cowboy hat.
Yeah, I was wearing a cowboy hat, but we were in Nashville.
Yeah, we were.
So,
what are you going to wear down in Louisiana?
I don't know, maybe an alligator hat or something. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Should be interesting.
Some alligator boots. But anyway, I do want to do something. We will work with some of the people that are going to be there to help us maybe set something up. And we'll let everybody know for those folks that are going.
Yeah. I'll be, maybe some of my Duck Dynasty friends will pop in.
Yeah. Gibbs is friends with the folks from Duck Dynasty, so you never know. All right. You ready to get into this episode?
I'm ready. We
are talking about Eric Edgar Cooke. And we're actually going to Australia for this one.
Rise of Lights.
Rise of Lights. So you can do some of your fancy Australian accents. We're actually going to Western Australia.
That's just on the other side.
On the Western side?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's really good.
Just right there.
It's on the other side.
It's on the other side.
The other side of what?
Yeah.
Eastern Australia.
Yeah.
So Eric Cooke was an Australian serial killer that they dubbed the Nightcaller. I mean, this is a guy that terrorized the city of Perth, primarily in the early 60s. He caused at least 8 deaths, but committed scores of other violent crimes. And I think one thing that is very interesting about Cooke, as we go through this story, we're going to see that he didn't seem to be constrained, as many other serial killers are, by the need to murder a certain type of person, to do it in a certain way, right? We know many serial killers have a compulsion, or an MO or whatever you want to call it. They have a very specific victim type. They also, many of them like to kill the same way, whether they're stranglers or, whatever it is. This guy was all over the map in the way that he killed. I mean, he killed men, women, and the way that he killed varied as well. So that's all something that we'll explore as we go through this. Also, this is a case where multiple people were convicted and put in prison for crimes that Eric Cooke committed.
Oh, really?
That he had admitted to.
Yeah.
So I think that adds a very fascinating layer to this case as well. I mean, these two guys, they spent quite a bit of time in prison, and it took a long time to get their names cleared. So a little background on Eric. He was born February 25th, 1931 in Victoria Park. And this is a suburb of Perth. He was born to father Vivian and mother Christine. That is a man's name that you don't hear a lot. Vivian.
No.
I normally associate that with a woman's name.
Yeah, you really do, yeah.
But
maybe down in Australia, this is typical.
Down and over?
Down and over.
And way over?
Way over.
Eric was the oldest of 3 children that the couple would have. And I mentioned Perth and I mentioned Western Australia. So I do think it's important to talk about both a little bit for folks that are not that familiar with the geography of Australia. Western Australia is the biggest state in the country.
It's like our Texas and California.
It's like the whole third of the United States put together.
Really?
Well, not in size, but in proportion.
Okay.
Because it makes up about a third of that country.
Okay.
It's so big. In fact, it's the second largest subdivision of any country.
Wow.
Second only to this place in Russia called Sakha Republic. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Way bigger than Texas or any of our states. Mm-hmm. It's massive. It's about 1 million square miles.
That is huge.
It's very big.
Yeah.
But its population is rather small for an area that size.
Okay, so I'm thinking rural.
So about less than 3 million people.
Okay.
The state that we live in, Ohio, it's not a big state.
No.
We have over 10 million people.
Yeah, we have no dingoes.
We got no dingoes. But so I'm just trying to kind of put it in perspective, right?
Yeah.
This is a huge land mass with a relatively small population. What's even more interesting is that the majority of the population is all clustered around one area, Perth.
That's where the water is? I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. That's where all the good drinking water is at.
That's where the water is.
That's all the good drinking water.
So huge land area, small population in relation to the size of that area, and one kind of small area contains almost 80% of all the people. The rest of the people, and you hit on it, they're really spread out.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if rural is the right word for it. I mean, they got to be spread out to where you could go miles and miles and not see another person.
That's a long walkabout.
Is definitely a long walkabout. And that's today, right? When we go back during the time frame of Eric Cooke's murders, Perth was much smaller.
Oh,
I mean, it's a huge city today.
Yeah. I mean, major difference for sure.
Yeah, it was much smaller in the late 50s, early 60s, but that's it for geography. But I found it interesting because, to be honest with you, Gibbs, before we started doing this podcast, I was not that knowledgeable about other parts of the world. Now, many people would argue that you and I are still not very knowledgeable at all about other parts of the world, but I do think we've learned a lot in doing the podcast. So I wanted to pass on a little information. Obviously, I had to look that up. I didn't know all that.
I mean,
But that's how you learn it.
I think you could go with what I said. It's down and over.
It is down and over. Yeah.
So, I mean.
But I wanted a little segment that was, kind of like Sheldon's Fun with Flags segment on the Big Bang.
Well, you nailed it.
So there you go.
You did it.
I'm not saying it'll be a reoccurring thing, but so back to Eric Cooke. His parents didn't seem to get along well. For one thing, they had rushed into their marriage because Eric's mother, Christine, found out that she was pregnant with him. His father was an abusive alcoholic who was especially violent towards Eric and his mother. We've heard these things before, right? We hear them a lot. Add on to that the fact that Eric had a lot of head injuries. He was hospitalized for a number of head injuries. There were reports that he was a clumsy kid and he just couldn't stop hitting his head and having accidents where, he suffered some type of head trauma. But what it did is it resulted in some very severe headaches. He was also bullied at school as a child. So Eric Cooke had a hair lip and he also had a cleft palate. He did undergo some surgeries to try to correct these issues, but they didn't completely work. So Eric was left with what was described as a slight facial deformity. But the other thing that it caused was he kind of developed a mumble. And we'll hear from Eric Cooke later on. And you'll be able to hear it.
Wait, I don't understand what you're saying.
He's hard to understand, but you can tell that there's something going on there.
Gotcha.
With his mouth.
Yeah.
You can, when you hear him, you'll be able to hear it.
Okay.
But that's a problem when you're a kid and you've got bullies running around.
It's a big problem, man.
Those are the types of things that bullies look for. right? Something that makes someone else stand out, makes them different. They grasp onto it and they pounce. And it's a horrible thing. I mean, I feel bad for Eric. Bad home life, issues that are causing him to be bullied at school. Now, I'm not going to feel bad, and nobody else is, when we're done with this episode. Eric dropped out of school at the age of 14. So about the same time you did, right, Gibbs? 14?
I graduated at 14.
Oh.
Honors.
And then you went on to Harvard.
Well, I went to medical school with my friend Doogie.
When was it that you started working at UPS? Was that when Doogie kind of went his own way?
Yeah, I just didn't want to get right into it. Wanted to be just a regular guy.
You wanted to see what Brown could do for you?
I wanted to see what Brown could do for me. I wanted to be a regular guy. Give me some of those shorts and socks and let me go at it.
Sometime you're going to have to find an old picture.
Oh, man.
Of you. I know there's somewhere in a box, there exists a photo.
There's a calendar
of Gibby in his UPS uniform.
I was in the UPS calendar, man.
I'm sure you were.
Month of July.
So 14 years old, quit school to go to work, in large part to help support the family, right? His father's an alcoholic. Even, when he's working, he's spending most of his money on booze. He's probably not putting a great deal amount of food on the table, all the time. So Eric stepped up to help out. All of that sounds pretty good, except for the fact that he dropped out of school. You hate to see somebody do that. But the problem with Eric is he also became a petty thief pretty early on in life, in his teens. And he racked up some convictions for a number of offenses. In 1949, he was sentenced to 3 years for arson and vandalism. And he was tripped up after leaving fingerprints at a number of crime scenes. This is important because it's something that's going to bite him later on as well. In 1952, he joined the military, but was kicked out after about 3 months once they discovered the fact that he had an extensive record. They were like, nah, I don't think this is working out for either of us.
Don't know if we want to entrust you with this key to this piece of equipment
that you might set on fire.
Yeah.
But even though Eric wasn't there long, it was during this time that he learned how to use a firearm. After getting out of the military, Eric met a woman named Sally. They got married in 1953, and they went on to have 7 children.
Wow.
It's a lot.
That's getting busy.
That's a big brood.
That's that too.
Eric became a truck driver, and eventually the family settled in Rivervale. So it sounds like he's got his act together, right? You probably figure this guy should settle down. He's married. He's having lots of kids. Now, obviously, we know he doesn't settle down.
No.
What he does is he starts going out at night. He's burglarizing homes. He starts peeping through women's windows. And he starts stealing cars. And this is something that he's going to continue to do. The car theft thing, I think, is pretty interesting. There was a lot in the research about, he would go out, especially when he was burglarizing homes.
Yeah.
He would steal a car late at night, early in the morning, go out and commit whatever crimes he was going to commit. And then he would return the car, and it would almost be like the owner never knew it was gone.
Yeah.
He just borrowed it for the night.
Did what he needed to do.
To commit his crimes. But as we get into the story, we're going to find out that he also liked to run over people with these stolen cars. It's going to become a big issue.
That's not good.
No. But it really wasn't long until Eric graduated to even more serious crimes, including murder. So we've talked about it. He's a pretty accomplished criminal. But it wasn't until September of 1958, he's about 27 years old, give or take at this point, that Eric Cooke used violence in committing a crime. Right up until now, he's been a voyeur, he's burglarized people's homes, he's stolen cars, he's committed a bunch of crimes, but he hasn't really hurt anyone physically. But This night in September, he had stolen a car. He was driving around one night when he spotted a 26-year-old Dutch immigrant, mother of two, named Nell Schneider. And Nell was out riding her bike, not doing anything wrong. Eric Cooke spotted her on the bike and he floored this car and just ran her over. And Nell barely survived the attack, but she suffered severe head injuries. You know, nobody's wearing a helmet back then.
No.
I don't know how many people wear one today, but a lot more people do.
Well, yeah, today for sure, but not back
But you
then.
also don't expect to be hit by a car on purpose.
No.
There are accidents where, bicycles, motorcycles get into an accident with a car. You don't expect somebody to go death race 3000 on you.
I would hope not.
Is that what it was called?
Death race.
I know it was death race something.
Something.
I'm going with 3000.
I'm going to.
But I could be getting that confused with Mystery Science Theater.
It's a big difference, man.
It might be Death Race 5000. I don't know. Either one. Death Race, you know what I'm talking
I
about.
know what you're talking about.
Where you get points for running people over. We might have to do that on the movie podcast.
There you go.
That's a horrible thing to do. And this woman, Nell, like I said, she suffered some severe injuries. And they left her with conditions that would stay with her for the rest of her life. She had epilepsy. She had constant seizures in the years after this accident happened. And then even many, many years later, she's in her 70s, 80s, however old she was still having seizures. It affected her for the rest of her life. Now, obviously, at this point, police have no idea that Eric Cooke is involved in this incident. Later on, when he's finally caught and he starts telling the police about all the things that he had done, he told them about this incident with Nell Schneider. And when he did, he told them that it was like something came over him. Gibbs, he called it like a desire to hurt someone. It just nagged at him until he finally gave into it.
So more than frustration.
Yeah, I don't think it was frustration. I don't know if he was frustrated about anything. There was something about Eric Cooke where he felt a need, right? And a lot of serial killers have talked about this, the need, the nagging, the frog demon, whatever you want to call it. He had this thing that was propelling him, or that's probably not the right word, to hurt people.
Right.
He wanted to see people hurt. He wanted to hurt people. He committed his first murder in January of 1959 when he stabbed a 33-year-old Perth beautician named Penina Berkman, stabbed her to death with a knife while she was in her bed sleeping. This is a very brutal murder. It was said that Cooke stabbed her in the face repeatedly. This was a big thing for him as far as entering someone's house while they were sleeping and hurting them.
It's a whole new level.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is, obviously the worst thing he's ever done to date. It's his first murder. But just bringing a knife down repeatedly over top someone into their face, that is something that for most people is hard to imagine. But then he switched up and did the same thing right to her heart. And obviously this killed her. And then he left the house. In April of 60, he once again stole a car and ran someone down. This time it was 19-year-old Glennis Peak. As she was walking back to her home, she had been at a dance. And Peak survived, just as Nell Schneider had. But the interesting thing about Glennis is that later on, once Cooke is caught and his face is plastered, she said that she recognized him. He had given her a ride in his car once or twice before. She said he'd been a nice guy.
So he was just sizing her up.
Maybe. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Or he was just driving along, saw someone. Maybe he knew it was her. Maybe he didn't.
Right.
But that frog demon inside him took over and said, I'm going to run this girl down.
Well, there's definitely a frog demon out there.
The other thing is he's stealing these cars. So you get up in the morning to go to work, you go out to your car, what's it going to look like?
It's true.
When Eric Cooke has stolen it and literally rammed into a human being. There's got to be some kind of like, what the heck happened here? All right, Gibbs, let's take a quick break to talk about sponsors. You've heard me talk about Poshmark before. My wife is cleaning out closets. She's getting ready to get some new spring clothes. A lot of us do that. She is going to use Poshmark. It's a free app where you can easily clean out your closet and sell items for cash. So download the app using our referral code TrueCrime. You'll get $5 off your first purchase. You can get Lululemon, Nike, Louis Vuitton for up to 70% off. So many lightly used and brand new items with tags on Poshmark. And the app is so easy to use. Now they have something called My Poshmark Closet. You just snap a few photos of the items that you're selling, add the details, so easy. And don't forget, Mother's Day is right around the corner. Check out Poshmark for your Mother's Day gift. Designer brand items for up to 70% off. Now, listeners of True Crime All the Time get $5 off your first purchase. Just enter the invite code TrueCrime when you sign up. That's invite code TrueCrime. Hey folks, we all know someone that struggles with migraines. It could even be yourself. It is the absolute worst. But now it's a little easier to treat migraines from the comfort of your own home thanks to Cove. Cove starts out with a simple consultation by a licensed physician, and then the prescription that they determine is best for you is sent directly to your door. This is not the same treatment for everyone. It is tailored to you specifically. They even reach out after a few weeks to see how you're feeling. They educate you, and this is doctor supervised. A doctor who is licensed to practice medicine in the state you live in will be the one who prescribes your monthly medication and oversees your progress. All migraine medication prescribed by the doctors at Cove is FDA approved. If you suffer from migraines, the last thing you need is to have to wait to see your doctor. With Cove, there's finally a way to get the help you need when you need it. And when you use our special link, you'll get your first month of treatment for free. Go to withcove.com/TCAT. That's withcove.com/TCAT. Withcove.com/TCAT. Now we have to talk about Australia Day. You know what it is, Gibbs? I had no idea what it is.
I have no idea either.
I mean, it's a big national holiday.
Raise the lights.
Yeah. It's January 26th.
Okay.
Is when Australia Day is. But I guess it's the date of the landing of the first fleet of British ships back in 1788. And it's something they celebrate every year. It's kind of like our 4th of July. They're not celebrating independence, but
didn't the British take their prisoners, people they didn't want in Great Britain, and boat them down to Australia? And that's where they...
Hey, let them celebrate whatever they want to celebrate. I don't know the history behind it.
I'm just saying, Yeah, it's a good day.
I don't know exactly what they're celebrating.
Raise the lights, we're here.
But like the reason why I'm comparing it to our 4th of July, a lot of people get the day off to celebrate.
We do.
There's picnics, there's fireworks, things like that. Uncle Bobby takes his clothes off and he goes streaking.
Every time.
Sorry, that's probably relegated just to my family.
Well,
I shouldn't be airing that kind of dirty laundry. Unless there might be a lot of people listening that have an Uncle Bobby that when he's had a couple of Leinenkugels, he will take his clothes off and go streaking.
Too much comes out to play.
Sometimes.
You ought to know.
That could just be in my family, though.
That's why I keep saying no when you ask me to come over for certain events.
Is that why you don't come to any of the family events?
I try to avoid them, yes.
But for Eric Cooke, Australia Day in 1963, and really into the next morning, was when he decided to go on a rampage. So 40-year-old barmaid Rowena Reeves, she was having an affair with a 27-year-old married businessman named Nicholas August. So it was in the early morning hours of the 27th. So technically the day after Australia Day, but this rampage is often reported as happening on Australia Day. And really, to me, 1, 2, 3 a.m., I look at it as the kind of the tail end of the night before. And I'm sure it made it more interesting when they wrote it up in the papers to say this happened on Australia Day.
Oh, I think so.
So this couple, Rowena and Nicholas, they're sitting in a parked car. They're drinking, carrying on a little bit, when all of a sudden, Eric Cooke walks up to the car with a rifle. And he shoots the rifle into the car. The bullet goes through the back of Nicholas's neck and into Rowena's wrist. So somehow he was sitting in the front seat. She was sitting in the back seat. And to hear her tell the story, she saw the guy with the gun. And she tried to push Nicholas's head down out of the way. So her hand, I think, was on his neck. So that's how the shot
got her hand.
Yeah, went through both his neck and her hand at the same time. Not really sure why they were sitting in the front and the back, but
to each their own. You've done crazier.
Oh, I've done much crazier.
There you go.
But even with this shot through the back of his neck, Nicholas is able to start the car. And he takes off as Eric Cooke fires another shot. But this one misses the pair. So amazingly, they were able to get away, drive off, and they both survive. But Cooke's not even close to being done, right? For one thing, I don't think he's happy with the fact that his first two victims got away. It's Australia Day. He's all amped up. He's going to do something big. Well, it didn't work out, right? These people drove off. Didn't happen the way that he thought it would happen. So he climbed up on the balcony of a house and he shot 29-year-old accountant Brian Weir in the head through an open door.
Because he could.
Because he could. Now, for one thing, it was really hot outside. So a lot of people had their windows open, their doors open. Brian survived, but he was in a coma for many months. And then even when he came out of the coma, he was blind in one eye, had lost the hearing in one ear. He couldn't speak and was paralyzed on his right side. So you're talking about that shot to the head. It caused a lot of damage.
Yeah, it did. It's life-changing, man.
Oh, definitely life-changing. And not in a good way, right? You can use that term in a couple of different ways. If you win the lottery, that's life-changing.
That's life-changing.
You get shot in the head and survive, also life-changing. But in a much different way.
A huge different way.
Cooke's next two victims would not survive. And we're still in the same Australia Day, late, early morning time frame. Cooke shot 18-year-old John Sturkey in the head while he was sleeping. In a very similar situation, right? Walking around, found a house with a window open or a door open. I'm not sure which one exactly, but saw this person sleeping, leveled his rifle, and he shot this man in the head. 18-year-old man, boy.
Just a kid, man.
Kid. Yeah, really. You know, my daughter's 18. I do not think of her as a woman. She is still a kid.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because we're getting older, I'm getting older, whatever it is. But I know technically you're an adult at 18.
Yeah.
But mentally, I'm not buying it. With my own. Now, other kids might be different, and I'm not putting her down. She's a great kid.
Oh, she is. You got both your kids are great, and and they're both beautiful. And I've seen them when they have some of that Sephora stuff on them.
Oh, they got a lot of Sephora stuff.
And I've seen them when they don't. And
see, and that's the thing. My 18-year-old can definitely look 18 or older.
Yes.
With all that makeup that she uses and all of that.
Yep.
But in between the ears,
sure,
I don't think of her as an 18-year-old because of the things that she says to me. And
yeah, she's a smart girl, but she doesn't have that. She just hasn't
street smart.
Yeah, she hasn't got them yet. Yeah, she'll get them.
But anyway, it doesn't matter. If you're 18 years old, I think of you as a kid, I guess, probably.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a product of us getting.
It can't be like us growing up on the streets, man. Rough times.
You had some rough times?
Growing up on the streets.
Playing dice in back alleys?
Yep. Robbing KFCs.
One point, you had to
chicken.
You had to bet your UPS shorts. You had to throw those into the pot.
I did.
And sit there in your tighty whities.
Rob McDonald's to get a Big Mac.
You never robbed no McDonald's.
Hardee's.
You robbed. Okay, I believe that. Not McDonald's, but I believe you robbed Hardee's. So that was John Sturkey, right? He died. Cooke then went the next street over, found another house, but he changed it up again. This time he rang the doorbell at the home of 55-year-old George Walmsley. And when Walmsley opened the door, there stood Eric Cooke, rifle in his hand, and he shot him right in the head.
Man.
And he died, right? So he's killed 2 people back to back. No rhyme or reason for these attacks. No idea who this person was. But eventually, press are going to give this killer the moniker, the Night Caller.
For all these senseless acts?
Yep.
Yeah.
The Night Caller. But again, police have no idea who this guy is. People in Perth were scared. There was talk about having their baseball bats ready, their guns loaded. No one went out at night alone. The authorities started putting undercover detectives on the street at night, walking around. But they don't catch Eric Cooke. That would take about 7 more months. And during that time frame, he struck multiple times. His first attack came about 3 weeks after the Australia Day shootings. He crept into the house of 24-year-old Lucy Madrill, again, while she was asleep in her bedroom. I said he liked to vary it up, and he did, but this was kind of the one thing that he did quite a bit of. When he murdered people, he tended to do it while they were sleeping.
Hence the night crawler.
Or the night caller.
Well, because he's crawling in the window.
Oh, so you're changing up the moniker.
Yeah.
Not misremembering what we just talked about. No way. It couldn't be that.
My mind is
a steel trap.
It's sharp, man. It's as sharp as razor lights.
I like it. But this is rough, right? He breaks into the house of Lucy Madrill. She's asleep. He jumps on top of her in the bed. And first he starts to strangle her with his hands. And he does this until she passes out. Then he took the cord from a lamp, on the nightstand, and he strangled her with that until she died. But then he raped her after she was dead. So you can see, his crimes are progressing, increasing.
Yeah.
After he did that, he dragged her body out of the house to the neighbor's yard. And somewhere along the way, or in that neighbor's yard, he found an empty whiskey bottle that he used to violate this poor 24-year-old woman, violated her again.
It's terrible.
And keep in mind, she's dead. He left the whiskey bottle cradled in her arms and took off. And to me, this is such a strange murder. Obviously, it's horrific, but it's strange. It's random like the others, but it's not a shooting. Right? This is a strangulation with a sexual assault post-mortem. And then to drag the body out of the house and leave it on the neighbor's lawn. Why? I mean, you are taking a bunch of unnecessary chances,
right,
that you haven't before, right? Everything else was shoot, boom, out. I mean, what are the chances that somebody is going to see you out in the yard with a body? I couldn't wrap my mind around why he chose to do that. And unfortunately, I don't think he ever gives a reason. Cooke then took a short break before murdering 18-year-old Shirley MacLeod in August 63. Now, Shirley is babysitting for a couple that night, and it starts to get late. Couple is still out. They're having fun. The kids are asleep, and Shirley falls asleep on the couch. Well, Eric Cooke broke into this couple's home, and he saw Shirley MacLeod asleep on the couch. He has his .22 rifle with him, and he fired it, shot her in the head, killing her. Now, when police do their forensic testing, they find out that this 22 didn't match the other murders. Because right off the bat, they're thinking, this has to be the night caller.
Right.
Who else shoots somebody in the head while they're sleeping with a 22? But it doesn't match. But you have to look at it, right? So not only did Cooke select random victims, change up his methods of murder, but when he did shoot his victims, he used different rifles. I mean, you talk about making it very difficult on police.
So this is not like our typical killer, man. I mean, he is every different direction you can think of.
Which again, makes it very hard for police. The thing that I kept coming back to, the question that was popping into my head was, is this guy that smart? Because he didn't seem to be that smart. He only made it to, he dropped out of school when he was 14 years old. I didn't get the sense that he was intelligent. In fact, I think he might have had some learning disabilities.
But maybe he figured it out to have a variety. Or maybe it's just him, right? Maybe it's what he wants. He wants that variety.
Right.
He needs that variety.
I guess that's where that's where that question really lies. Is he doing this because he thinks it's going to throw off the police and make it harder for them to catch him? Or is he doing it because that's what he wants to do?
I'm going to go with he's probably doing it because it's what he wants to do.
I have that feeling too. I don't think he's as calculating as some people might think he is. I just don't. I think, again, this is just his whim of the day, and that's the direction he goes. Well, if you look at some serial killers that have a very specific type, right? That's what they want to do. They are targeting somebody that looks like this.
Right.
Makes logical sense that you could have some people that go the other way. They want to do something different with each murder.
Sure.
And I think this is where this guy kind of fits in. Don't let allergy season slow you down. Get common allergy meds for as little as $15 with GoodRx. So you and your family, pets included, can stop allergy symptoms before they start. GoodRx is free and easy to use. Just search for your prescription on the website or the app, compare prices, and get a free coupon to show your pharmacist. Save at over 70,000 local pharmacies nationwide, including Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Publix, Kroger, and many more. Check GoodRx before every trip to the pharmacy to save up to 80% on both brand and generic medications. And did you know GoodRx rewards you for saving money too? Join GoodRx Rewards today and earn points every time you use a coupon. Remember, GoodRx is not insurance, but works whether you have insurance or not. And it could be your insurance copay price. I've been using GoodRx for years, and I can't tell you how many times I have saved money even with my insurance. Stop allergies before they start and save big on allergy medications this season with GoodRx. Go to goodrx.com/TCAT. That's goodrx.com/TCATT. Once the temps start rising, I realized I was back in the same worn out rotation. Same tank, same shorts, same everything. So I gave my daily uniform an upgrade with Quince. Their pieces are easy, elevated, and somehow make me feel more put together without even trying. Like their 100% European linen shorts and dresses from $30. Luxe swimwear, Italian leather platform sandals, and so much more. The best part, everything with Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than what you'd find at similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middleman, Quince gives you luxury without the markup. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. I'm getting ready to stock up on shorts for summer from Quince, and I know they're going to be amazing because everything I've ordered has been of the highest quality, and the prices are amazing. Treat your closet to a little summer glow up with Quince. Go to quince.com/TCAT for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/TCATT to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/TCAT. Now, this was a huge investigation, right? You got somebody shooting people all over the city. Police did find a fingerprint at the Shirley MacLeod crime scene. So at least they had that to go on, but they don't know who it is. I saw reports from police that they fingerprinted over 30,000 males.
That's a lot, man.
That number is huge. It said, I saw one report that said it was kids as young as 12 and up. I saw one report that said 14. But not only that, they located and test fired over 60,000 .22 rifles.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Those numbers don't even seem possible to me. They're just staggering. Also, it seems like everybody in the area has a .22 rifle.
Maybe they needed those 22s, man, to get those snakes and those spiders that are bigger than a dog here and all those other poisonous, scary creatures.
Well, that's one thing Australia has. They have a lot of things that will kill you.
And the dangos that ate the babies.
You said dangos.
Dango.
But actually, when you say it that way, I guess it's kind of right.
Yeah.
It makes it sound like it's authentic. Yeah, I don't know. Those numbers really stood out to me as being staggering. But then police caught a break. And this happens when a couple is out walking. They find a rifle. They call police. The police come get it. They test it. And when the results came back, it was the same weapon that killed Shirley McLeod. And this is what I said in the beginning. The downfall of Eric Cooke and how they identify him and all of that, to me is fascinating. Because it's this rifle that ultimately brings him down. So what police decided to do was take this rifle back to the area where it was found, and they put it back, like where they found it.
Yeah.
But they tied it down to a branch. Then for weeks, police hid across the street in camouflage, waiting for the killer to come back. So I guess they just figured that the killer dumped the rifle there, thinking that, you know what, I'll come back later, I'll get it, no big deal. And the police were right. Man pulls up. Now, it was 17 days later, so it was a lengthy stakeout, and it turns out to be Eric Cooke. Police nab him after he gets out of his car. He walks over to pick up the rifle. They pounce. Also inside his car, they find a .22 bullet that matches the gun that he has just come back to get, and it matches the bullets that killed Shirley McLeod.
Well, they got to be happy there.
Yeah. So really good evidence that they've just acquired, enough to arrest him.
Sure.
Right? He's arrested on September 2nd, 1963. And he holds out for a little bit saying, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. But eventually he starts confessing. And not just to the 5 incidents on Australia Day. He starts telling them about 8 murders, 14 attempted murders.
Wow.
He's telling them about all kinds of things.
He's just letting the cat out of the bag.
Yeah. So he's going through detailing out, the things that we've talked about. When authorities asked Cooke why he committed the crimes he did, he said, no reason. I just wanted to hurt people.
Did it for the fun.
Well, first of all, that is a reason.
Sure.
So
to
say
do it for your own enjoyment.
So to say no reason is technically not correct. It's a reason. It's a horrible reason, but it's a reason. I mean, it's really, when you think about it, it's enough to make the hair on the back of your neck stand up.
Do you have hair on the back of your neck?
I do. It's one of the few places where I have hair.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. On the back of my head, and then it grows down the back of my neck. Sure. But just solely based on the fact that somebody could be so callous, so cavalier about, taking another person's life. For what reason? Because he just wanted to hurt people.
It's about as cold as he can be.
It really is. Now, he also went on to say that he didn't know any of the victims and that he was just a cold-blooded killer. He also ended up confessing to about 200 different break-ins. So he was definitely a prolific burglar in, his time, the years leading up to the murders. But to me, it's what he said in confessing to these burglaries, these robberies, that was the most interesting. Because authorities said this guy could remember every last detail of a robbery. They said that Eric Cooke could tell them what denomination of coins and bills he took from a house 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. I can't remember if I took my pills in the morning. This guy's saying, yep, I got, I don't know what they use over there.
But he's recounting everything.
Oh, in very minute, fine detail that turns out to be correct, right? It's not just that he's giving them details. They can corroborate those details, and they're just amazed that he can remember that stuff from years ago. So I have a clip of Eric Cooke talking, kind of going through his confessions, and I want everyone to be able to hear from him directly. It's a little long, but I think it's worth it.
And then what did you do?
I struck him with the hatchet.
Where?
On the head.
Whereabouts on the head?
On the temple. First blow on the temple.
On the left temple?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How many times did you, and I think I should say the witness indicated with his finger the temple just above the left eye. How many times did you hit her with the hatchet on the head?
3 to 4 times.
3 or 4 times. Where else besides that particular place?
On the front of the head.
What?
The forehead part.
On the front of the forehead, the witness indicating with his fingers the front of the forehead. So that was the first blow. Well, now, what were the other blows?
More savage ones.
More what?
Savage ones.
What do you mean by more savage ones?
With the front, the blade of the hatchet.
Mm-hmm.
The point.
With this?
Yeah.
With the chopping edge of the hatchet. And where did you hit the woman with that?
On the, as I mentioned, on the front of the head and across the...
On the front, you mentioned it sideways. Do you mean you chopped it along there?
No. For 30 seconds, I had struck her approximately 3 more times. And she was out of the way. But then I proceeded to choose the dog.
So that was Eric Cooke talking in court. The thing about it is he's talking about a murder, a hatchet murder that we haven't talked about yet. It's coming up in a little bit, but I definitely wanted everybody to hear his voice. He's hard to understand, and you really get a sense that the surgeries that he had to correct some of those issues, it left him with I guess you'd call it a speech impediment.
Yeah, I would say
you can hear it. Just a month after Eric's arrest, his oldest son, Michael, drowned when he was 9 years old. Michael had some learning disabilities, but he was taking a swimming class at a place called Sandy Beach Reserve with 22 other kids who also had learning disabilities. These 32 other kids came out of the water, but Michael didn't. And by the time they realized it, they got to his body. They tried to resuscitate him, but they were not successful. He died. I just thought the timing of it. I mean, first of all, to have, a 9-year-old die is terrible.
Tragic, yeah.
But this happened a month after his father was arrested for these horrible crimes. But we talked about it. Eric Cooke confessed. But even though he confessed to, all these crimes, when it came time for his trial, he pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. His lawyers argued that he was schizophrenic, but state mental health experts testified that he was completely sane. So that didn't fly. His defense gave evidence of the violence he experienced in his childhood. They talked about his head injuries and his suspected brain damage, resulting from those injuries. His trial only lasted 3 days, and he was convicted of murder and sentenced to death. And I want to play this clip from a 1963 broadcast where they were going out on the street. They were interviewing people, trying to find out their thoughts of whether or not Eric Cooke should be hanged.
That week.
Do you think that Eric Edgar Cooke should hang?
Yes, definitely.
Why do you feel that way?
Because he's a vicious and violent murderer, and he doesn't deserve any sympathy
from anybody whatsoever. In spite of the fact that anything these parsons might get together and hold meetings and protest meetings, I have no sympathy with Cooke or that type of person whatsoever.
Yes, I definitely do. Until he is hung, there'll always be a reminder to the people he wronged that the book can't be closed. Every time that something comes up about him, if they want to let him off with a bit of leniency or put him in a mental asylum or talking about his family, it will open the sore in the hearts of all the people, and it would bring them more grief. Once he's dead, well, it's gone and forgotten. Let it be closed and finished.
Are you in favour of hanging Eric Edgar Cooke?
No, I am not.
Why do you say that?
Because I don't think it's the Christian idea at all. I don't think the two blacks make a white. And I think when a person commits murder, they must do it in some emotional crisis. And when we hang anybody, we are committing a murder.
It was a callous murder, what he done. Very callous. I shouldn't waste money on trialing him or nothing. A man will do what he done. I think he should definitely hang.
I like that, Gibbs, because, that's going back to 1963.
Yeah.
And getting the man, the woman on the street. I think most of the people were in favor of him hanging, but it's really the woman that wasn't that got my attention. At a certain point in there, she said what I originally thought was two wrongs don't make a right. But that's not what she said.
No.
Two blacks don't make a white. I don't think it has anything to do with race, but I'm not exactly sure what it means. My assumption is it means the same thing as two wrongs don't make a right, but I found it a very odd phrasing. Maybe it's something that is said in Australia or was back then. I really don't know.
Maybe back then,
But it definitely didn't have anything to do with race. But I found it odd.
It is odd. I'm sure we might get some responses on that.
Yeah, I hope we do. Because I've listened to it a couple of times, and every time I'm like, what is she talking about? Now, Eric Cooke was hanged in Fremantle Jail at 8 a.m. on the morning of October 27th, 1964. So they didn't wait long, right? He was arrested in late 63. His trial wrapped up pretty quickly. And by October of 64, he's going to be hanged. But not long before the execution was carried out, Eric Cooke confessed to two more murders. These were the murders of Rosemary Anderson and Jillian Brewer. And we're going to talk more about them in depth in a minute. But I want to talk a little about Cooke's execution. And it's something that we definitely don't see here today in the States. There were no demonstrations outside during his execution. There was a paper that said there was one woman standing outside. She was opposed to the hanging, and she felt sorry for Cooke's widow. She told the paper that. She also told them that she was surprised that she was the only one out there.
Just her.
Just her. But it wasn't like there were a bunch of people cheering that this man was being hanged either. It just didn't happen.
Yeah, well, you didn't have either side.
No.
Yeah.
Cooke's was the 9th hanging in Western Australia since 1928. Not a huge number, but he was the last man hanged in Western Australia. So he has that distinction. He's buried at Fremantle, and he's buried right next to the last woman to be hanged in Western Australia, a woman named Martha Rendell. She was hanged in 1909. And then Western Australia outlawed capital punishment altogether in 1984. But now we've got to get into these two murders. Rosemary Anderson and Jillian Brewer were killed. Cooke said he did it before his execution. It wasn't until 1998, 34 years after his death, that his wife Sally came out and broke her silence. She said that just prior to her husband's execution, he confessed to her about killing these two women. His wife said that he once told her he couldn't think of anything worse than somebody dying for what somebody else had done. And these are extremely interesting cases in their own right, because 2 individuals were sent to jail for the murders. John Button was convicted of the 1963 hit and run manslaughter that killed his girlfriend, Rosemary Anderson. Rosemary was run down at night while walking home from his house, John's house. This is her boyfriend. I think they got in a fight that night. She said, you know what? I'm walking. Eventually, what John says is that, all right, he got in his car to go after her, but found her lying in the middle of the street dead. And apparently someone saw him pick up her body and drive to the closest hospital. Now, to me, Gibbs, I would think that's what a boyfriend would do, a husband, anybody that loves somebody.
Sure. Makes sense to me.
You'd scoop that person up, try to get him to the hospital as soon as you could. The problem is with his car. John Button's car had a big dent in the front of it, which looked like it could have come from hitting someone.
Instead of a kangaroo.
Or maybe a kangaroo. But the fact that his girlfriend had just been hit, it made it look like he had hit her.
Not good.
They brought him in for questioning, and he confessed. Now, later on, he would say that this was a false confession. It was a coerced confession. The police would not let him leave that room until he confessed to the murder.
See, I would have camped out, man.
You would have camped out where?
In that room. You're not going to leave till you confess. If I didn't do it, I'm not going to say I did to leave.
I think that way too. But we keep hearing these cases. We keep talking about these cases. And I don't think these individuals are soft necessarily. Yeah. I just think they are put under so much stress.
Yeah.
So much duress by police. And again, now we're talking early 60s.
Sure.
Who knows what the police
what kind
were
of
doing.
techniques?
Yeah, what they were doing back then. But whatever it was, it made 2 individuals confess to murders that they didn't do. Because we're getting ready to talk about the second one. The other thing about the murder of Rosemary Anderson was that police were able to establish that Eric Cooke was out that night in that area and was driving a stolen car that had major damage to its front end. And they knew that he had confessed, right? He confessed before being executed. He was executed in 63. But they had John Button's confession. And they moved forward with a trial. He was convicted and sent to jail. So even though he recanted his confession, Eric Cooke had confessed to it, Button's in jail. The second victim was Jillian Brewer. She was found murdered in 1959. So, like 3 or 4 years earlier.
Right.
Brewer was the heiress to a Melbourne chocolate fortune. She was rich, wealthy.
Chocolate fortune.
A chocolate, I'm thinking like a Willy Wonka type situation.
Wow.
But this was another extremely brutal murder. This time involving a hatchet. And this is really what the clip was about that you heard earlier. I could have played it here and maybe it would have made more sense, but I had it earlier because I wanted you to hear him talking about confessing to crimes as we were talking about that part. So Cooke enters Jillian's apartment, finds her asleep in the bed. He's standing over her with this hatchet and he just starts bringing it down again and again. Kills her.
Of course.
Then he goes to the fridge, gets some lemonade, goes out on the veranda, sits down and drinks his lemonade. Because that's what you do.
That's what you have to do, I guess.
After you've committed a hatchet murder. But he wasn't done. He went back into Jillian's bedroom. She's already dead, but he took a pair of scissors and stabbed her many times. Like I said, this was a very brutal murder.
Absolutely brutal.
But police zeroed in on a 19-year-old man named Daryl Beamish. And Daryl Beamish just happened to be both deaf and mute, but he lived near Jillian Brewer. So police were questioning him, and I think they questioned him pretty hard, and he signed a confession. He was convicted at trial, sent to prison, and despite the confession of Eric Cooke, right?
Yeah, didn't matter.
He ended up serving like 15 years for this murder that he didn't commit. So both of these guys, right? John Button was not acquitted of Rosemary's murder until 2002. I don't have when he actually got out of prison. I don't know if it was 2002 or earlier.
Right.
Beamish was not acquitted of Jillian's murder until 2005. Now, he was out. He had served 15 years, but he was still a murderer, right? For the rest of your life, you're a murderer.
Yeah, it's on your record, man. You can't go get it taken off.
Until 2005, when an appeals court took a look at Eric Cooke, they took a look at his confession, and ultimately they ruled that it was more likely than not that he did it. So I thought that whole thing was fascinating. Wrongful convictions, we've been experiencing a lot of them lately here in the U.S. Here's a couple that I'd never heard of before.
That's like the worst, right? I mean, convicted, wasn't you, especially if you're convicted of somebody you love, the murder of somebody you love.
Right, which John Button was.
Yeah.
Daryl Beamish, I don't know if he even knew who this lady was.
Yeah. And then you got to sit in jail, prison, go through all that, the cost to try to defend yourself. And then somebody comes out and says, it was me. And their track record pretty much proves that it was them. But yeah, you're still left in there. I just think it's just so wrong, man.
To me, it added a layer to this one. The crimes of Cooke are bad enough. He was a horrible serial killer. And in any episode where we have a serial killer or a killer of many people, you have a lot of victims, right? In this case, there were a lot of victims that lived, right? We talked about a number of them, people that were shot in the neck and the hand, and Brian Weir was shot in the head and lived. They're affected for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely.
Forever. The victims that died, their families are affected for the rest of their lives. We always have that.
Yeah.
And you're always going to have that in these type of situations. But then you add on top of it 2 individuals losing their freedom for, what was a pretty good amount of time for something that they didn't do.
Well, they needed Sylvester Stallone, an escape plan to come get them out of there.
They needed something for sure. So I think in wrapping this up, I did want to talk about Sally Cooke a little bit. She lost her husband. Obviously, he was hanged. She lost her oldest son to the drowning, but she had 6 children to take care of. What would that be like? She's on her own, 6 kids to take care of, the family of this infamous serial killer. I don't know.
There's a lot of single moms out there with a lot of kids, and they find a way to get it done. But
I get that, but is their husband / father of their children also one of the most infamous serial killers?
Yeah, no.
I think that just adds something to it.
Sure.
What I found interesting about Sally was that she didn't run from it. I think most people in her situation would have, at the very least, moved to a different part of Australia, if not out of Australia altogether. But not Sally. She stayed in Perth, raised her family there. And her oldest son, Tony, went on to be the head of Western Australia's Trades and Labor Council.
Wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah, so he really made something out of himself. I really didn't get anything on the rest of the family, but...
Did you get that? I said it was a really big deal. Trade council, trade, big deal.
Like as in a trade is a deal?
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay.
It's not your best work, but I got it.
You weren't as excited as I thought somebody should
I really didn't. I don't know that I got it at first just because it didn't hit the mark, I don't think.
Well, you're probably right.
Didn't land the way that you were hoping.
It was just kind of disappointing. How about, wait a minute, Rise of Lights?
just follow it up with something else.
Oh, but I mean, what a way to, for her to hold her ground and, persevere and those kids, just for them to come out better than what people would have expected them to. I mean, that's a lot to grow up with, knowing that your father, that he was a really bad man, bad killer, did terrible things. And I wonder if you're a kid, you know, if you're one of his kids, I mean, do you think that they wonder, do I have that part of him in me?
I don't know how you couldn't at some point in your life
Yeah.
wonder if this is somehow hereditary. Do I have a gene that's going to turn me into a serial killer? Or do I have the same traits that my dad had?
I mean, if you one day have a bad thought about somebody, does that mean, it's here? Or is it just you had a bad thought about somebody?
Sure, because we all do.
Because they pissed you off and you said, I'd like to take them out back and shoot them. You know? Doesn't mean that
Do you think that a lot?
That I want to take somebody out and
Yeah,
shoot them?
it's a very specific thing you just said there.
Well, this because I'm here, your gun's on the table.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Because of you.
Because
But, you know, jokes aside, pretty strong woman, I think. Mm-hmm. You know, she didn't have anything to do with this. This wasn't her fault.
No.
I think you talk about making the most out of the hand that you're dealt.
Yep.
Sounds like she did that.
Yeah, she decided to move forward instead of move backwards.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing for people to do, you know?
I think so. I think you're right. But that's it. That's the case of Eric Edgar Cooke. As you said, Gibbs, he's a bad man.
He's a bad
But not
man.
a bad man in a good way like Muhammad Ali.
No, not like that at all.
And I said it like that, but I didn't mean it like that.
Right.
He really was a bad man.
He was.
We got some voicemails. You want to check those out?
I want to hear him.
Hey, Fergie and Gibby. This is Jasmine from Oklahoma, and I've been listening for a while now. And episode 10 and 11 really stuck with me. It was about the case of 13-year-old Lauren Landavazo, who was murdered by a man who's not worth saying his name. And episode 11, you had her parents on, and y'all talked about the Texas law because the perpetrator couldn't qualify for capital punishment because Texas has stipulations. And one of them was if the child was over 10 years old, it didn't qualify for capital punishment. Well, I looked it up as I do all the cases when I'm listening, and I actually seen that a couple weeks ago, around April 16th, Lauren's law was actually passed, and they raised the age from 10 years old to 15 years old. I honestly think it should be 17 years old, but they did up that age limit, and I just wanted to inform you guys about that. Also, why are you not doing another hometown murder cases where a fan can be on? Because I would definitely be interested in that. You guys keep up the good work, stay safe, and keep your own time tickets. Bye.
So that's great. That was an episode that really sticks with me.
Oh, I remember that day.
Because, you know, I was the one that Lauren's mom reached out to on Facebook. I was the one I wanted you to be on, but you had something, I forget.
Yeah, I remember it was
you
like
couldn't,
Saturday morning or something like that, and
you couldn't make it. You were busy, and so I got on Skype with them, and it was just tough. It really was.
I remember you telling me afterwards how rough it was.
Yeah, it was rough, but I'm glad she called in because I still do talk to them every now and then, but it's, you know, obviously as the years go by, it gets fewer and farther between, but it's good that they passed that because I know they were working really hard to do it.
And it really is a compelling episode. You know, I mean, I had just today, my office, I had two people come in that just listened to it and they wanted to come in and they talked about it. It really hit home for them. And I thought, man, you know, I remember doing it. I remember you having the conversation with the parents and just how heartwarming your conversations were.
As far as the hometown listener, you and I had big plans for that.
Yeah, we did.
The problem became, I think we started Unsolved.
We did.
I think is what happened.
Yeah.
Then we started having to do 2 episodes a week. Then I started Criminology. I had to do 3. We just got to the point where
logistically it was just really difficult.
Yeah. And it is tough sound-wise because listeners, unless they're into podcasting, they're not going to have the equipment. So more than likely, as happened in that episode, they're just talking through their computer. So sound-wise, you're not going to get, the quality can't be there.
Exactly, yeah.
So we had that issue as well. But you never know. We might revisit it.
Hey guys, this is Cameron from Lafayette, Louisiana. I just came across your podcast this morning on Bernie, just a couple hours after y'all posted it. I'm actually a big follower and researcher on the Bernie Tita case, and I actually know Bernie. We've talked quite a few times, and as luck would have it, I was looking for someone to listen to while I got some house cleaning done, and I'm glad to see. I think y'all gave him a fairly decent overview of the crime and all that other stuff, and I may even bring it up to him the next time he and I talk on the phone. But I had a good time listening to you guys while I cleaned up, and I like the back and forth you two have, and I might look up some more episodes. Yeah, y'all have a good day.
So Cameron reached out to me on email. We've talked back and forth a little bit. That's an interesting situation. Somebody looking just specifically for one case.
Sure.
Finds the podcast. He probably knows way more about the case than we do. There are a lot of people out there, right? If you spent years and years researching one case,
right,
you probably know more about it than we do. We do our fair share of research, but we are researching a lot of cases at one time. And we had a good talk. And it was just interesting that, he said he may bring that up to Bernie.
Yeah.
So if Bernie has a way to listen to the episode, he might do that in prison.
There you go.
Hey, y'all. This is Wendy from San Antonio, Texas, where the Tex meets the Met. I obviously just listened to the Bernie Tita episode, and the local guy who described the different zones of Texas was dead on. I mean, that's very true about what we think. And I also wanted to let y'all know, Gibby, that my grandfather's name was Rex West. So every time I hear you talk about Rex West, it just makes me chuckle. Anyway, we love listening to y'all, and keep up the good work. Oh, and I'm team for Gibby, as in Ferguson and Gibby, for Gibby. There you go. Thanks, y'all. Bye.
There's a real Rex West out there.
Her grandfather was the real Rex West.
Right, gunslinging.
You're just an imitator.
I'm just the imitator.
Hi there, this is Jenny Chapman, and I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for getting me through the day, and I am definitely team Mike and Gibby. I realize the special qualities both of you hold, but I wanted to share something special. My dad and I both love true crime, and we're huge fans of anything true crime. He passed away at a young age of a very traumatic illness. But I have to say, Mike, when you say he or him or them in a certain way, it just reminds me so much of my dad. So thank you for all you guys do and for keeping your own time ticking, and I'll do the same. Bye-bye.
She messaged me about that, how you say him.
Oh, really?
And how it really hits home with her. Yeah. Yep.
So I do have a bunch of different words that I say a certain way that maybe are different than most people are used to hearing them. And I hear from a lot of people about that either they know someone that says it like that, or like you said, I remind them of someone because they had a family member that said it like that. I think when you get into like the hims and the thems, and it's probably me just being lazy and not finishing it out fully,
right.
Not wanting, but it's just the way I talk.
It's the way you do it. It's who you are.
It's who I am. But, sorry to hear about your dad.
Yeah.
Sounds like he was a great guy. It's interesting that she brings that up though, because my oldest is getting into true crime. And I never thought she would. She started watching The Act.
Oh yeah.
And then she was basically binging every true crime documentary she could find on Netflix, on Hulu. And that's just something I never thought that she'd be into.
I knew something was up when she asked me if I bring her a K-bar.
Yeah. She's wanting to keep her head on a swivel.
There you go.
We got Mailbag Gibbs. Robert Mendez sent us the new John Douglas book.
That's cool.
Which is very exciting.
Yeah.
It's called The Killer Across the Table. It looks really good. I haven't been able to dive into it yet. We just got it. But it looks like it's got some real Mindhunter type qualities to it. And obviously it does because that's John Douglas. Melinda Wargacki sent us a true crime desk calendar. She also sent us a big boy serial killer coloring book.
Really?
Which I assume was for you. She didn't say that specifically.
Oh, okay.
But there's no words. It's just pictures you can color.
Do I have to stay inside the lines, or can I go outside?
You don't have to, but you'll be graded accordingly.
Okay.
And then Sabrina Viet sent us this really big box from Germany. A ton of really good chocolate. She sent me a Harley chip from Munich. There's a postcard in there that just says Gibby.
Just says Gibby?
Yep. That I think you should frame.
Gibby.
She also sent a book that I believe teaches us how to cuss in German.
Oh,
that I don't believe is in there.
No.
But you know, I was reading her letter and she said that beef jerky's not real common over there.
Really?
Which surprised me because I thought all the people that immigrated to the United States from Germany, they either made beer or they became butchers.
So
for the most part, that's what I thought.
Maybe they just don't dehydrate it. They just eat it.
I don't know. Yeah, she just said it wasn't real common or she would have sent some of that. But we appreciate it. We appreciate all that stuff. And we appreciate all of you listening, downloading the episodes, telling your friends.
Thank you.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. But that's it. That's it for another episode of True Crime All the Time. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
Inspired by the hit Wondery podcast Against the Odds comes the gripping guidebook, How to Survive Against the Odds, Tales and Tips for Animal Attacks and Natural Disasters. This might just be the most important book you'll ever read. Go inside life or death situations where everyday people survived nature's most extreme scenarios, and learn how you can too. In these tales, you'll hear about the grit, willpower, and know-how needed to endure shipwrecks, alligator attacks, earthquakes, and more. You'll learn from experts, including top doctors, about what happens to your body and mind in life-threatening situations. Plus, important tips on what to do, and equally important, what not to do when faced with a situation that is truly against the odds. Go to survivalguidebook.com to pre-order How to Survive Against the Odds today and get the perfect gift in time for graduation and Father's Day.